Anthony Edwards, pretty solid performance. Took in my first Timberwolves game. Overall, pretty awesome experience. I was pleasantly surprised. Anthony Edwards, we'll get to some thoughts there. Looked good. You know, looked great. Lamelo Ball. But let's start with the T-Wolves. Looked good. Very good. Excellent. I mean, they blew out the Rockets as it was like six. We're going into this game. I'm thinking 6.5. What is going on here? And the Timberwolves uh, took over from the opening tip. Cat looked great. I hate when he took a couple of bad pull up threes from the top of the key, like in transition. That's not doing anyone any favors, but he overall was very efficient. Anthony Edwards' 3-point shot really impressed me. Step backs, creating space, confidence with his shot. He looked really good. So is it just the Rockets or are the Timberwolves going to turn a corner? That I think the jury is still out on. But I will tip my cap to a very impressive performance to Anthony Edwards. Now, Jalen Green, rookie, number 2 overall pick. Was he, perhaps taken too high? Evan Mobley looked good. Jalen Suggs did not, but it's early. Green looked bad. He looked bad on defense, but and couldn't shoot the ball well. But good Lord, Kevin Porter Jr. is probably one of the worst basketball players I've ever seen. Every time this dude touched the ball, you were expecting imminent turnover. He had 9 of them personally. And the game was just, I was on the Rockets. I wasn't really rooting for either side. I was just there to enjoy a good game and then take in the Target Center, which was awesome. The Target Center was clean. It's refurbished the last couple of years. They've got lots of different bars, an absolute bar. Treasure Island has their own bar off the side. The food was excellent. You got pizza, some tenders, the fries. Bravo, Glenn Taylor. At least you haven't given him a franchise, but you've given him a pretty solid place to watch the shit you put on the court. The amenities were fantastic, and we actually got screwed by StubHub. It's a funny story. They maybe I'll talk about it on Winging It more, but we get screwed on StubHub, and we ended up like some guy who's helping us there gave us free tickets up in the upper level. And we were going to be up there anyway. But we're just walking around, my first time at the Target Center, and all of a sudden we get to the end, right behind the basket. It's where the pregame shows kind of set up. And there's just there's standing kind of tables, right? Great view. The standing areas for anyone. So shit, me and my buddy just posted up there and watched the entire game with the best view. If you don't want to stand the entire time, that's fine. But going to a T-Wolves games from now on, buy the shittiest tickets and just get there early and stand there. Fantastic seats. Got to see the entire game from a great vantage point and just an overall pleasant experience. T-Wolves got the win. The crowd was up. See if they can make some noise this year, perhaps. Dare I say? But it was the Rockets. Lamelo, holy crap, this dude, Anthony Edwards, the 3-point shot looks improved. And then you see Lamelo toss a casual 7 in from beyond the arc on just 9 attempts, leads his team to a come from behind victory against a playoff team in the Pacers. Lamelo's the real deal. He out rebounded Ant, assist, barely any turnovers. Lamelo is just sensation. And he's wearing like this really, really crazy outfit at the end. Lamelo's announcing himself. Ant is starting to announce himself. But again, the whole point, I'll take it down to the grave, was you had a chance for one guy, you went with the other, and you'll always be linked to that. And we'll kind of see how it goes. An eye for an eye last night as both guys get the win. Both guys look good. One just looked a little bit better. How about that? Other news from kind of the first full slate of the NBA. The Bulls squeak by the Pistons without Cade Cunningham. All right. There you go. The road to the playoffs. You put up 94 points. Good. The Pistons, again, without Cunningham. That was kind of a surprise inactive right before the game. Good Lord. I knew the Raptors were bad. I did not know they were this bad. They lose as a favorite in embarrassing fashion to the Washington Wizards, who no longer have Westbrook. It was just Bradley Beal and a bunch of waiters, parking attendants from outside. OG Anunoby, these guys played like parking attendants, was the Raptors. OG Anunoby, people are saying comeback player of the year, 6-man player of the year. 3 for 17, 2 for 9 from deep. Wow. Scotty Barnes, their rookie, right? Was that a reach? 5 for 13, not great. Fred VanVleet, oh, he's going to take over when Lowry's gone. Well, he took over for 5 for 20, 1 from 9 from beyond the arc. Chris Boucher, I like as a player. He's a great DFS value play because he gets so many blocks and rebounds, and he can shoot from deep. Just not yesterday. 1 for 6 from beyond the arc. He was just 3 for 10, which is not great for a 6'10" guy. Evan Mobley looked good. He was a good value play at daily fantasy for the Cavs last night. They lost too, but Mobley looked very solid. I thought the defense still shaky, but impressive scoring ability and was just gravitating towards the ball. I thought Mobley looked good. Jalen Suggs did not, but it's early. So again, that's kind of just the rookie analysis. We didn't get to see Cunningham, but we got to see the top 5 guys. And Mobley, I think, shined out of all of them. Dame didn't look like Damian Lillard. He was fine, but it wasn't, you expect MVP level numbers, and they lose as 5-point favorites to the Sacramento Kings. Kings are fine. Harrison Barnes had a career high, I think, or one of his best games of his career. But his Dame to the 76ers just imminent, because you see what's happening now. Harden shows up to the Houston training camp looking like, a potbelly, forces his way to the Nets, works off the weight. Simmons shows up to practice, apparently with his phone in his pocket, practicing, and won't go into defensive drills when Doc tells him to. Is disobeying his coach, etc. Acting like, hey, I'll be here, but you're not going to want me to be here. I'm going to make such a mess. These guys are making messes of their situations because they know they have the power. They're going to force their way out. As I nearly knocked my water bottle over. They're going to force their way out. Dame hasn't done that yet, but he's voiced his opinion a little bit louder than in years past. He gets a bad loss to the Kings. And again, the 76ers, they're not going to get rid of Simmons unless they're getting the guy. And look at the rumors. It went from Simmons for McCollum back when his stock was at its lowest, right? When he was looking terrible and a shell of himself in the playoffs. You let some time sit, and all of a sudden the rumors are Simmons for Lillard. Look at that upgrade. So Daryl Morey's keeping his cards tight to his chest wisely, and I think that is probably what's going to happen if Portland comes out of the gates 4-10 or something terrible. Dame's going to start getting a little bit louder, I think. He's not trying to be a part of a rebuild after they just fired Terry Stotts and they got a new coach in there. Zion, the same thing. Dude shows up, looking a little bit beefy. Didn't really enjoy going to New Orleans. Anthony Davis, he saw the blueprint for how AD went from miserable in New Orleans to a champion with LA, and now they're running Hollywood. Keep an eye on what Zion's doing over the next couple of seasons, as the Pelicans look like a disaster. Wasn't that against the Sixers? The Pelicans couldn't even, without Simmons, do anything. They lost by 20. Dame to Philly. Where's Zion going? Because he clearly does not like Nolans. Let's get to our weekly hit with Ricky Larson here, talking some NFL fantasy news. Jarvis Landry off the IR. Denver, Case Keenum tonight. Stinker of a Thursday night football, but a lot to get to in the news and notes for setting your fantasy lineup this weekend. Enjoy. All right, we started with a little opening night look at each NBA team. We've got just 3 teams left in action tonight to look at, but it's time for our weekly hit with Ricky Larson of Lucky Shots Media. My first question, do you mess with NBA daily fantasy at all? I'm a huge advocate of it, only when it's a full slate, not like the 3 games tonight,
So I actually haven't really jumped into any other fantasy kind of things besides football. I put so much into fantasy football that it would be too much for my little brain to really, go on beyond that. But
overload, right?
Something that I maybe in the future will try.
Yeah, certainly.
Kind of excited for this year. I'm a Bulls fan, and last night looked pretty good. Got quite a few pieces, so excited to see how that goes this year.
1-0, and they did cover against the Detroit Pistons. But let's start with the news. I'm getting screwed this year because Christian McCaffrey is again out for an extended period. He was supposed to come back, then he was doubtful. Now he's back on the IR. What's the latest here, and how heartbreaking is that for everyone that took him first overall?
I honestly feel a little bad. We have a kind of family league that we've got, and my brother, he did the worst last year, so he ended up getting the first pick.
Right.
We pretty much bullied him into taking Christian McCaffrey. We're like, don't be stupid.
Right.
McCaffrey first, and now he's sitting here with no running backs. He's got Damian Harris and Kenneth Gainwell as his running backs. So
Right. Yeah, I'm in a
he's
similar
really
situation.
hurting. But, hopefully before the season, when you drafted him, you were smart enough to pick up the handcuff of Chuba Hubbard.
Mhm.
If not, he was on waivers for quite a bit. You still could have gone and picked him up. You didn't go get him. It's a little tough for you, and now you're kind of scrambling to figure out what to do. But there's still a few guys sitting out there. Last week you had Daryl Williams.
Yeah, that's my question. Who are the premier handcuffs you should be getting if you have a running back like, your buddy and myself of Gainwell? I've been rocking Ramondre Stevenson for back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, if you didn't jump on Cordero Patterson's bandwagon right away, you missed out on that. He's a guy that Mike Davis, you kind of expected to have some sort of season like he did in
Right.
Carolina. Hasn't really worked out that way. Cordero's taken over there. Javonte Williams is a guy who is probably rostered most leagues, but probably not playing. So he's somebody that you could try to target low if you have extra pieces that you don't necessarily need.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like the Broncos offense right now. It's looking pretty shaky, but he's been a bright spot. And I think as the year continues, once you get to those fantasy playoffs, I think he'll be the top guy for Denver. And then you got guys like I said, Daryl Williams, even Khalil Herbert,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how David Montgomery is doing right now. He's
Yeah.
also a decent option. He had about 19, 20 points last week.
Mm-hmm.
So he's another guy that you could kind of look at as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. What's interesting about your Broncos backfield, and we'll get into tonight's game, but it's been not necessarily a frustrating shared backfield. They've both been, no one's really kind of booming every week, but they're both kind of consistently putting up double digits.
Yeah, I mean, Gordon, he's kind of surprised me. He came on last year, kind of strong at the end of the year, looked all
Mhm.
right. Then he had the first game of this season, had that 70-yard touchdown. You haven't really seen much of him since. I mean, he's in there getting carries, but it's much less impressive than what I've seen from Javonte, who
Yeah.
literally a few games ago drug 3 or 4 guys for like 17 yards. He's just a lot more impressive. He looks better when he's running the ball, and they kind of go to him for those touchdown type of runs, inside the 10. But if you have either one, it's not like the Broncos are going out and scoring touchdowns every drive. So
Yeah.
there's not a big separation besides maybe a touchdown for Javonte right now.
Certainly. Some tough news. It's a bye week right now for the Bills, but Dawson Knox looks like he's going to be out for an extended period. What do we do there if all of a sudden you lose with your top tight end?
I don't mean to laugh, but I saw a report yesterday or the day before he had a successful hand surgery.
Yeah.
I don't know why they needed to use the word successful.
Yeah, it went well.
If
You
he
would
had
hope
the
it'd go
surgery,
well. Right.
I would assume it was successful. They wouldn't come out and be like, it was unsuccessful.
Botched surgery. He's out
He's
for
just got
his
he's just
career.
got a scar. He's one that you probably jumped on his bandwagon after a few weeks or a couple of weeks of touchdowns. He had, I think, 4 weeks with a touchdown at least. Now you kind of got to look around. A guy that you talked about on my show, Ricky Seals Jones.
Yeah.
He's not a bad option. He's kind of gone into the Logan Thomas area of he's got to absorb that role, and you don't know how long Thomas is going to be out. He's currently on the IR. I believe this is probably his last week of like officially being on the IR, and then they'll evaluate him again.
Mm-hmm.
But he's somebody that you don't need to scoff at. He's,
Yeah.
something you can use. Dallas Goedert, I know he was on waivers because he was out last week. Some people needed to drop him to make things work. I ended up picking him up. And now he's the only guy for Philadelphia. So he's a good option. You know, the tight end position is always hard because you just don't know what you're going to get from a lot of those guys.
Yeah.
In one league, I'm even having to roll out CJ Uzama, the Bengals tight end, who, you know, he had that one huge week that no one saw. So maybe you go for him. It's a decent matchup against Baltimore, who's 29th against the tight end position. You have David Njoku.
Yeah.
You're just kind of shooting in the dark at a lot of these guys.
It's tough.
Even Mo Alley Cox, you know, he has been doing something, at least. It's better than nothing. Yeah, it's just tough for Knox, though.
Yeah, tough for Knox, hopefully. Yeah, because he was a little bit of a touchdown machine. I kind of lucked into Mike Gesicki. He was a guy who was obviously a tank last year and then had a real slow start, but it was only a couple of weeks. So I take a flyer on him, and now he's, you know, anchoring my lineup, luckily. It's not a very good lineup, though, clearly.
Yeah, he was top 5 last week, you know. And,
yeah.
It's what I expected from him going into a season with Tua as his starter. And then those first couple of weeks, you were like, what the hell's going on? You know, Gesicki's not touching the ball, not getting a whole lot. Now he's starting to get into the rhythm of things. Tua's realizing, hey, this worked last year when I went to him. So let's keep going to him. So he's a pretty good play regardless of the matchup. And this week it's Atlanta, who's not necessarily a great defense. So
yeah, certainly. You know the name by now, Ricky Larson. Lucky Shots Media is the place. You mentioned your show that is out. Again, your weekly football show, fantasy, etc. And then we've got our Lucky Bets collab coming out this week too. Let's get you out of here with your team. It's the game tonight. Broncos. You get Case Keenum, a little bit of a gift. What are you repping? Von Miller tonight?
Yes,
your
sir.
Jersey.
We're on the road. Got to wear the away jersey.
Of course, I love it. Is it Broncos tonight? Are we missing something? It's got to be them,
right? Here's the thing. Our offense has not been, you know, lighting it up. Teddy Bridgewater he's pretty banged up, to be honest.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I've been having to go at it with people on Twitter, saying, you know, why aren't we putting in Drew Lock? Drew Lock is a healthy Drew Lock is better than a hurt Teddy Bridgewater.
No.
Did we not watch the Baltimore game?
Yeah.
When Bridgewater went out with a concussion, in comes Drew Lock, and the offense moves nowhere, just like last season. Drew Lock is not good, people, and we've at least seen Teddy move the football, score touchdowns, put us in games. You know, we almost made a comeback against the Steelers. We would not have done that with Drew Lock. Drew Lock would have thrown 2 interceptions, and we wouldn't have scored 2 touchdowns to even get back into that game. But, you know, if you look at Cleveland's side of the ball, the offense is gone. They don't have either one of their running backs. They don't have their quarterback. They probably don't have Odell. So you're counting on Case Keenum and Dearness Johnson.
Yeah, Dearness Johnson.
And then Landry possibly may even be in.
My last question was Landry off the IR. What's the fantasy impact? Because he does have Keenum, right? And it's going to be his first game back in a while.
You know, I wouldn't expect a whole lot, but there's a chance that, you know, without all of these other weapons, you have to turn to Jarvis because he's, you know, probably the best player on the field for this team tonight.
Yeah.
So it's kind of tough. The Broncos defense isn't necessarily terrible. They're pretty dang good. That offensive line for Cleveland, a couple of them are gone. So, you know, if you look at Jarvis, he's a quick pass type of guy, and that's what Cleveland's going to have to utilize so that Von Miller doesn't go rip Case Keenum's head off every single play. So I think Jarvis honestly could be a dark horse tonight. But I guess we'll have to see.
I'm seeing like a lot of receptions for like 3 yards.
Which, I mean, if you're in PPR, 10 receptions for
take it.
30 yards is still,
Yeah.
10, 13 points. So.
No kidding. All right. Well, good luck to your Broncos tonight. Ricky Larson, appreciate the insight and analysis each and every week. Check out his stuff, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you. See ya.